A high intake of white sugar actually compromises the immune system, according to doctors.
150 pounds of sugar per person per year? Wow, that's incredible. Let's listen to a few more physicians talk about the way that sugar compromises the immune system and also actually fuels cancer cells.
Why is sugar important? Cancer cells feed only on sugar. This was discovered in 1936. The person who discovered this got the Nobel Prize for it. They cannot eat up protein or lipids. They have to feed on sugar. We use that property to detect them when we do a PET scan where we inject radioactive glucose in the body and look for where it accumulates. It accumulates in tumors because cancer feeds on sugar.
Talk about briefly the connection between sugar and cancer cells.
There's certain common characteristics that all cancer cells have. One of those characteristics is that cancer is an obligate glucose metabolizer, meaning that it has an obligation to metabolize glucose. It only survives on sugar.
Cancer is a sugar feeder. Cancer is what's called an obligate glucose metabolizer, meaning that there is a dramatic uptake of glucose in the cells of tumor cells. If you can lower gut and blood glucose, you can help to slow down cancer.
The problem is that we are not eating food anymore. We are eating food like products. And they are adorned. They are made to look better and smell better so that people are attracted to them.
It's not your fault. You're programmed to put on fat whenever there is food available. But now there's a lot of food available, but it's the wrong kind.
Sugar is in everything. In America, we're eating about 22 teaspoons of sugar a day.
Even the milk hasn't escaped. So, let me just show you. One kid, just for 5 years of elementary school, sugar, just from milk.
You might as well be rolling up the kid's sleeve and putting in heroin, because it's the same.
The marketing essentially lies to you, because it presents you with the promise you're going to be sexy and popular and cool, but in reality, you're going to be obese and miserable and sick.
Nothing else does it in your brain quite like a Diet Cola. And that's because there's a deadly combination there of aspartame and caffeine.
So what happens for average person is they're not getting enough, say, vitamin A. They're not getting enough vitamin D. They're not even getting enough vitamin C. They're chronically starved of nutrients, so they keep eating and eating and eating, but the foods that they keep eating don't have enough of these nutrients for them ever to get the stock that they need, but what those foods do have is a lot of calories. So what happens is they start to pack these calories onto their body in the form of body fat, and the body starts to accumulate or bioaccumulate too much, not just fat, but also all the associated pollutants that are in that food supply. We see things like diabetes, right? We see blood sugar imbalance issues, and we see a lot of weight gain. And so this is a really prevalent problem today because people are overfed, but they're also starving to death.
Doctors say we really need to eat less red and processed meat.
On arteriosclerosis and cancer and autoimmune disease.
We have unprecedented amount of type 2 diabetes in our children, and we're starting to see hypertension in our children in grammar school.
The Western diet is taking a toll. This should serve as a wake-up call. We have a growing problem, and the ones who are growing are us.
Obesity, diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure are all diet-related health issues that cost this country more than $120 billion each year.
People know this, so why are highly intelligent people not stopping? Because they don't know the nature of the trap.
Everywhere you look, it seems a heart attack is just waiting to happen. More than 1 million heart attacks a year. That's one just about every 30 seconds, just in the United States. If you haven't had a heart attack yourself, you likely know someone who has.
What doctors commonly call coronary artery disease is usually caused by a condition of the arteries that supply the heart with blood. What happens is that over time, a fatty substance in the bloodstream called cholesterol builds up in the coronary arteries, restricting the blood flow to the heart. This can ultimately cause several problems, from severe chest pain called angina to heart attacks.
You don't die with your first plaque. You develop atherosclerosis blockages really your whole life for many, many years before it causes a heart attack or stroke.
Coming up, plaque starts in childhood. Did you ever wonder how seemingly healthy people can have a heart attack? This may surprise you. Most heart attacks happen in people with no symptoms, in people whose arteries are less than 50% blocked. Here's how. Cholesterol can cause unstable bubbles or blisters of plaque to form in your arteries. These can be incredibly dangerous. Most are covered by a cap, but inflammation and stress can cause the cap to thin and rupture, resulting in a clot that blocks the flow of blood to the heart. Robbed of oxygen, the heart muscle can't function properly. Heart attack.
Over the next several years, Dr. Campbell initiated more extensive lab studies using various animal and plant nutrients. The results were consistent. Nutrients from animal foods promoted cancer growth, while nutrients from plant foods decreased cancer growth. Dr. Campbell's research led him to a conclusion about the way genes, chemicals, and nutrition interact to promote cancer.
Cancer starts with genes. It might be genes we're born with, it might be genes that are actually changed by a chemical. So those genes become capable of producing cancer cells. Whether we do or don't get cancer is primarily related to how we promote those cancer cells to grow over time. That's where nutrition comes into play. They go much more rapidly when they were fed animal protein.
Dr. Campbell and other nutritional scientists have found that only a small percentage of cancer cases are caused solely by genes.
Because we learned that animal protein was really good in turning on cancer.
The New York Times called it the most comprehensive large study ever undertaken of the relationship between diet and the risk of developing disease. For Dr. Campbell, he finally had large-scale data on people, and it was remarkably consistent with his earlier discoveries. Together, he found that the scientific evidence was clear. Whole plant-based foods were beneficial to human health, while animal-based foods were not. These are the estimated amounts of animal foods produced in 9 countries, a figure that's closely related to animal food consumption. These are the numbers of deaths due to heart disease and cancer in the same countries.
Show me a population eating an animal-based diet, and I'll show you a population where cancer is the second biggest killer, after heart disease. In fact, heart disease and cancer are the 2 hallmark diseases of an animal-based diet. This is because our immune systems have become seriously weakened due to our change in diet. You're going to get cancer cells in your body. The question is not whether you'll get cancer, but whether your immune system is healthy enough to kill cancer cells and stop them from multiplying.
The food choices we make have profound global effects. It takes over 10 times the amount of energy from fossil fuels to produce a calorie of animal-based food than it does to produce a calorie of plant food. Since the 1970s, 20% of the Amazon's rainforest has been destroyed. That's an area the size of California. 80% of this cleared land is now occupied by livestock. The world's cattle alone eat enough grain to feed 8.7 billion people, nearly 2 billion more than the population on Earth. With almost 1 billion malnourished people across the globe, redirecting even a portion of the grain used to fatten cattle could feed every hungry mouth on the planet.
I grew up eating animals, like most people in our country, but once I started considering my food choices, I recognized that I didn't really want to eat animals. And the more I learned, the more I saw that I was healthier if I didn't eat animals, and that I had a much lighter footprint on our planet. The livestock industry is a greater contributor to global warming than the entire transportation industry, according to the United Nations. So by eating meat, milk, and eggs the way we are, we're harming our own health, we're slaughtering 10 billion innocent animals every year in the US, and we're destroying the planet.
The human population drinks 5.2 billion gallons of water every day and eats 21 billion pounds of food. But just the world's 1.5 billion cows alone drink 45 billion gallons of water every day and eat 135 billion pounds of food. This isn't so much a human population issue, it's a human eating animals population issue.